Call to order. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Item 2.0, approval of this month's agenda. We have a motion.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2.0 is passed. Item 3.0, approval of the minutes from February 9th, 2026. Any comments? We have a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Question and comments on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes have passed. 4.0, public comment. I don't know that we have no public comment today. So we'll move on to item 5.0, approval of consent agenda. 5.1, CD 35, approval of mandatory referral 2026 M001AB-001 to abandon approximately 1,161 feet of a remnant of Newsom Station Road between Newsom Station Road and I-40, requested by Brandsetter Legacy Partners. Item 5.2, CD 17, approval of mandatory referral 2026 M002AB-001 to abandon a portion of alley number 2076, alley 277, alley 2078, and Stanley Street right of way, requested by Andrew Reed. Alley 2706 from alley 2075 to alley 2077. Alley 2707 from Stanley Street to alley 2078. Alley 2078 from alley 2077 to alley 2075. Stanley Street from Nance Lane to alley 2077. Any questions or any of these that we need to pull off the consent? Any questions on these items? We have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda has passed. 6.0 regular agenda. 6.1 CD 18. Approval of new residential permit parking area effective 24/7 for Paris Avenue from 12th Avenue South to Belmont, requested by Councilmember Cash. Mr. Councilman Cash, is he still here? There he is. Yes, sir. I'd like you to come up. I didn't bring you up doing permit comment, but I knew you had an item, so I just allow you to speak here if you don't mind. 2 minutes, and please state your name for the record.
Hey, Councilman Tom Cash, District 18. Thank you for, this is the second month in a row that we have a residential permit parking request that's been waiting, that kind of in the queue as I've worked with NDOT folks to come up with a more comprehensive plan and come up with some new tools. But right now, this residential parking program is one of the main tools that we have. I want to, this is an area, I have a lot of urban areas in my district, and this is not just a hey, we'd really like it if only residents were on our street. This is a parking management problem. 12 South has grown exponentially in the last 10 years, and it is feeling growing pains. Residents on the street, on these streets don't have an opportunity to park where they need to. Driveways are regularly getting blocked. Delivery trucks, not the commercial businesses, but delivery trucks to the residential streets or residents are not getting, they're stopping in the middle. There's nowhere for them to pull over and get out of their truck and deliver this. Also, I'll say, last month when you were discussing the two residential permit parking streets that I had up, there was some discussion on social media, and some of my constituents were characterized as rich. And I got a variety of constituents in my district. And some of them are well off, and some of them have been in those houses in this area for a long time, and they might now have a house that has a big property value, but they are not what you call rich. Certainly compared to the commercial businesses that are turning their parking lots into a second business and not letting enough of their employees park there. So I continue to talk with NDOT folks and work out better solutions. But in the interim, I hope you'll approve this. These streets really need it. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Mateus, you have the floor. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emmanuel Matias. I'm with NDOT. I would just like to echo what Councilmember Cash said. This is a continuation of the RPP that we had last month. It's pretty much the same scenario. The quality of life issues we're trying to address by moving the parkers that currently illegally park for long term on the residential streets to 12 South. This is part of a larger overarching plan that we have for 12 South. So in the next couple of months, we should be bringing to you some proposal for 12 South itself becoming 2-hour parking. And so our hope is that once the RPP streets are managed, that will push the parkers that are there for long term into 12 South for their business needs, for short-term usage of the curb. And then anything that would be over 2 hours would then move to the lots that are nearby, which there are many. And so this is, again, part of that overarching goal. We have some other initiatives in plan. We are working on some ride shares areas. We are working on adding some bike lanes. I'm sorry, not bike lanes, scooter corrals. So this is part of that larger conversation that we had and also was televised in last year. We did propose this to within the committee meeting as well that we had, and we're just following through on our promise. I'm assuming that once 12 South goes to our parking, we might have some more RPPs come in, and yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say to that. Hopefully, this should relieve some of the residential pains that they have, and we'll implement some other features in this area to help the flow of parkers and to ensure the parker situation and education is done the way it should be. And we expect some positive results from this.
Thank you, Mr. Mateus. Any questions from the commission?
Oh, you want to go first?
Ms. Holler.
Thank you, Chair. And first, I want to say many thanks to the staff at NDOT, and particularly Mr. Smith, for all the work that goes into the preparation of our packets for the commissioners. It's extremely thorough and very, very helpful. Thank you very much. So looking at this particular request and recognizing that we approved the cross 12th at the last meeting, I certainly support this as a tool for the neighborhood, and I certainly understand the need. I have a question particularly on Paris as you head west and get closer to Belmont Boulevard. This is quite a long stretch. I'm very familiar with the area. In fact, I drove it again today. So my question is regarding the stressors that are itemized for qualifying for a residential parking permit. Could you share with the commission, once you get closer to Belmont Boulevard and away further west from 12th Avenue South, that retail entertainment area, what are the stressors that have been identified on the western end of this block that would qualify for exclusive use of the curb.
For sure. So Brandon Boatson with NDOT. It's kind of the same, along with the east side as the east side of Paris Avenue gets congested and the occupancy level increases. Parkers are still migrating down to the west end of it and are willing to walk back. So it kind of goes in parallel with the whole street. There's about 65 total spaces that we counted on that street between both sides. And throughout our time kind of studying it and looking at it, there was times where the street was 95% occupied, starting from like 6 a.m., going all the way through about 8 p.m. I don't think it being a little bit further away from 12 South had any negative impacts on people wanting to or being able to park there and walk back. I think they were also willing to do that, if that makes sense.
So are you saying that the demand, the stressor
Was still there.
is directly related to 12 South?
Correct.
On the western side?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Absolutely. And it could be in conjunction with whatever the activity's going on the Belmont side of it. I mean, we're not really following people as to where they're going. We're just seeing that the actual curb is being occupied during certain portions of the day.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. As a follow-up question to that, so conversely, for the residents and the neighbors who live on the western side of Belmont Boulevard, highly residential, when they have friends, neighbors coming to their home, or there's an event like the home tour going on or something of that nature, was that taken into consideration? And has the Belmont Hillsborough Neighborhood Association kind of signed off on this, so to speak? And that might be for Councilmember Cash.
Had they signed off, they're aware and have been, working with me for a year on trying to get that broader solution. And I think they would prefer that we are at that broader solution and looking at it as a whole than just doing it street by street. But they absolutely recognize the need to use some tools to manage this parking.
Sure, and by signing off, I meant like their support. Are they supportive of going this far west on Paris? I mean, literally coming up to Belmont Boulevard?
I don't know that I've had any conversation with them about exactly where it starts and stops.
So they're not necessarily,
I think if they heard what staff said, they would say it. Part of 12 South on the west side has 15th Avenue that kind of is a dividing line between that I think that there like some blocks to like closer to Sevier Park are like one long block, and then kind of as you
Right.
get towards including Ashwood and Linden, they're kind of two blocks with 15th Avenue being the dividing line. And I
Right.
think that might be a distinction going forward to make. But I believe that the folks on Paris believe that can I say all the way to Belmont? I don't know that I've heard those words, but I think it's covering the vast majority of the street. Can you pick a house or two off? I guess so, but I think it's.
I can help the council member.
Yeah.
The RPP application says that it is from 12 South to Belmont, but the home addresses that are specified on there actually end. There's an alley near Belmont. In fact, you can see it on the map. Look for a north-south alley on the western side. Yes, right there. That's where the application says that this ends. And they've identified the home addresses on the north and south where this RPP ends. So those residences that abut Belmont aren't part of this RPP request. But the general description said it was from 12 South to Belmont, but the actual addresses are shown from that alley you see there back to the alley that I've indicated with the right-hand side of the arrow. Yes, right there.
And I would kind of guess that those properties past the red arrow going to the right. Right. Well, and somewhere along there, they're probably facing Belmont, right?
I was
Not-
just gonna, oh, sorry.
Yes, the residents to the left of the alley face Belmont.
Right, I think that's why they're not included, perhaps. But, well, I think my fellow commissioners have some questions, so
Yeah.
I'll pause for right now, thank you.
If I could add, just like, yeah, there are areas in 12 South where, like, we haven't been asking for residential spaces for areas, ROW, that is next to commercial property. It only starts at where residential properties are and ends where residential properties are. And that's not specifically what you asked, but we were kind of talking about that, so I wanted to clarify.
I just want to bring this back home also. The petitions kind of dictate what the parameters of the RPPs are. So the House 1 to House 10, for example, if they are the one who apply and 75% of them pass, that section of the street gets the RPP. So despite the folks across that line over there, whatever they might have said, if the section qualified for the RPP, then they would qualify for the RPP regardless of what, the folks next to it say. But they are only the petitioners that we receive the petition for, and they are the only ones who get the RPP.
Commissioner Cornertick?
The one question, first off, is what's the total number of permits and petitions along Paris Avenue?
Along this segment of Paris Avenue, there are 15 properties on the north side. There are 15 parcels on the south side. Of those 30 individual residential parcels, I have signature petitions from 24. So we got an 80% yes.
Yeah,
And as a reminder, the code requires a 75% consensus.
and I'll try not to belabor a lot of the points that I made last time, that I do think that the denominator of that is unclear because it does say total residents and not just property owners. If that's what we're going to use on this one, I think I'm going to be a no again on these. I think council member had brought up the area in this place. I think I have all of Paris Avenue, the single-family homes, the average appraised value is almost $1.4 million. So these are places that have the ability to work through these processes. I think, again, every single home on Paris Avenue has garage or a driveway access. Understand that this is maybe a parking management issue. The only question I have as we maybe think about broadening this, are we looking at doing loading zones within these residential streets so that way delivery trucks can have a spot?
Well, not on residential streets, but we are looking at I'm looking at revisiting one at Ashwood that we had here last year, for example, because that would be helpful. And along 12 South itself, yes.
I would love to see that maybe added as something that we would look at. If that is a problem in that area of a delivery truck, I think it'd be a great spot for a delivery truck to be able to park and then hit all the streets, or hit all the houses on the street. As you kind of expand, would absolutely love to see paid parking in this area and then kind of expand what the residential zones are, so it's not just street by street. If this is truly to serve 24 people, I think that there are more than 24 people working in that area, and that's what we're trying to prevent. But I think we need to think about, they also have access to the street too. Then we should try to find a way to accommodate that. But I will be a no today.
Any other questions? I had one on Dallas. Why is that not 24/7, the west side of Dallas?
Well, that was the first RPP that we have done. I think that was the guinea pig of the bunch, and they had problems. And that's one of the streets that I mentioned. I believe in the last meeting that we've cited 400 and something citations in the past 12 months, and it didn't make a dent. So I actually believe that we had this discussion, council member, to see if we can get it revised to make it 24/7, so that the zone would be the same.
What's the process of doing that?
It would come in front of you.
Do you need a petition, or is it just something you all can, and designee could do based on?
We haven't done this before, so I'm going to ask Councilmember Cash to help us out with getting the petitions or speak on behalf of the residents in that area.
Just figure out what the process, I
Yes,
think
sir.
consistency is key.
Yep.
Here's the reason why I'm asking. So
Yep.
if you could just figure that out and bring it back to us, that'd be great. Any other questions, commissioners? Yes.
Just one follow-up, sorry.
Please, go ahead.
If we had so many citations in that area, why do we think expanding it to 24/7 will reduce the citations and not just maintain them?
Well, because it's going to force the parkers that are receiving the citations off the streets into 12 South to the parking areas. They're going to be 2 hours, and if not, then to the garages or the lots.
I guess I'm just unclear of, do you think that they are staying there outside of 8 to 7 and then they're staying there and that's when they're getting cited? Or are they just parking there from 8 to 7 and then being cited?
We
So
haven't
the
done.
RPP's from 8 to 7, right?
I
And then people can park there after 7 p.m.
Outside of
Right.
it, correct. So they're parking within the restricted time
Right.
and, assuming they're going into 12 South or Belmont, what have you.
Yeah.
And they're being cited within that since they don't have an actual permit.
Commissioner Holler?
Thank you. The discussion's very helpful. And recognizing that in the ones we approved last month, their proximity to 12 South, as well as the narrowness of the streets and so forth, even though they had, in most cases, their own driveways and garages, I felt that they were certainly worthy of consideration for the residential parking permits. As we head west, and recognizing that Dallas is 8 to 7, it's feeling like that the closer we get to Belmont, that is feeling very exclusive. And that there are lots of residential homes. In fact, most all of Belmont in these areas are residential. It's not easy to park on Belmont because of the bike lanes there and the bollards that line the street. So if a resident on Belmont is having a birthday party, grandma's birthday party, whatever it might be, I would think having access to public parking on Paris would be more equitable. So for that, if there are, go ahead. I was going to make a suggestion. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish
I
your
guess
thought,
okay.
and then I'll circle back so we can close the loop.
Sure. Fellow commissioner made a recommendation or suggestion last week that perhaps, or asked the question, have we considered one side of the street residential permit, the other side public parking? And so I would ask that same question in regard to this request today.
We have not considered it this time due to the severity of the issues that we have at 12 South. I think we discussed this last month also, and I believe there might be streets that would be benefiting of this. At this point, before we finalize all the initiatives that we do at 12 South, we don't feel like that's the best approach at this time. By that said, and I didn't want to say this at this point, but we are working on doing some analysis when everything goes in place, do another survey of the streets, see if the utilization of the curb changes and goes down, and that might prompt us to request a change to the times that the RPP is active. But that's something that we're looking into the future. Right now, we just really want to close the faucet, so to speak, so that we have a better option to work with the scenario that occurs there, and then try to, we're working backwards. So eventually, this is probably going to be what you're alluding to. It's just not today, not right now.
Any consideration for partial block, or is this?
I think I want to circle back to Councilmember Cash
I know,
for closing
right.
thoughts. And before,
Thanks. I want to,
it's been asked, the petition was pretty specific in the request, and the request was for all of Paris to be 24/7 residential permanent parking. So I just, point of clarification in that the item that we're looking at is just for Paris right now, and that was at the request of a petition by you and your constituents, correct?
yeah. I do want to add that I think the 24/7, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think the 24/7, and I suggested to NDOT that as we move towards a kind of zone plan rather than a street by street plan, that the important thing is that we have consistency in this, right? And I'm thinking that the staff determined that a 24/7 is that. I don't know that I'm married to 24/7, nor do I know that I'm married to 8 to 7, but I am married to, like, if we're gonna have zones, which I would like broad solutions to this and not just a street by street solution, that we do have consistency in these, right? And I want to say it's consistency in the hours that that the limitations are in place, and the allowances of, like, can somebody park there for an hour or without a permit or not. And so, and with that, I kind of spoke last month about that a little bit, and then by the time we got to the discussion, I did that in public comment, and by the time we got to the discussion, I think that had been a little lost. But I think that 1 hour or 2 hours is something that is part of the tool, and it should be consistent. I think the benefit to it is that it allows, like, somebody running an errand or going to a small business to have some access to the space. On the other hand, it is understandably tough on enforcement, because that means they have to go by twice every time. And I think that's kind of the default, because we don't want to jeopardize the reliability of enforcement, if that makes sense. Does that clarify some of why it's different from Dallas? I'm guessing no.
For me, it does. I mean, I understand that. I think
We need to move towards a consistency in these streets, and I'm going to say that the form needs to be changed so that kind of NDOT is guiding what is the best policy for the hours and the allowances,
no, yeah.
rather than each street kind
Sure.
of.
So my pause is in considering those comments, in that it sounds like we have 2 no's, but we may have the votes to pass it, which would reject just Paris Avenue, which still leaves us an inconsistency problem on Paris, Dallas, and I can't see that under there. So a no or yes here, there's still an overall consistency challenge that we need to get to. So my question is, is there a path, or is there a future effort to reevaluate this and then potentially get this commission aligned with, an overall consistency around some of the things that were brought up, plus making a fixed time for the entire area that you're trying to get RPPs on?
So the answer is yes to all of those. Again, this is part of a larger initiative. That's number one. Number two, we were planning on bringing Dallas in front of you to align it with the rest of the streets to make it 24/7, then introduce the 2-hour parking at the same time, and then have everybody who needs to utilize the right-of-way on 12 South, which currently is utilized for long-term parking, not necessarily for 2 hours. So we need to see what that's going to do and push everybody off to the lots. And then when we will go back and redo the survey, with Dallas already being in place 24/7 and all the other streets creating a zone being 24/7, we would redo the survey and then come back with another recommendation if the surveys show that there is such an opportunity here.
So the magic question is there anticipated timeline for this overall?
Yeah, well,
strategy?
yes. So Dallas is, I believe, in April coming up for the time change. We've discussed this last month already. And
Just for clarity, Dallas changing from 8 a.m. to 24/7?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And that would close the loop on the consistency part of it. And then 12 South becoming 2-hour parking, we also just discussed it with our director a couple of weeks back, and that's a go also in April, May. So this is all very close within the next couple of months.
I would really prefer that if we're going to change Dallas, that we have that bigger master plan or the zone plan and that be a part of that when it comes.
Okay.
I guess I'm saying that to staff as much
Sure.
as I'm saying that to y'all.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think the one thing that, just want to echo what Commissioner Kornitek had mentioned with the residents versus parcels, or however we're counting people. I think that discrepancy, we really need to, I feel like on other, RPPs, we've gone by residents, and now we're counting up parcels and then kind of doing that. So I think for that reason, I would have to vote no. But I do think we need some more clarity on that, on how we're going to be counting residents moving forward.
Yeah, I count parcels because that's what I can identify on an official GIS map. I don't know how many individuals live in a household, and there's no way to obtain that information. So if Commissioner Kornitek says, hey, there's 6 people that live at this address, I have no way of finding out. All I can do is count the number of signatures and individual addresses on the petition that's submitted by the neighborhood. What you're asking is something that I do not have that information, and I don't have a way to find out how many people live at a property. It's none of my business. It's none of Metro's business.
And to be clear, it is not homeowners, it is residents. So if they're renting there, they get the same vote as anybody who owns. It's just what Mr. Smith said. It's
Yeah,
about how many
otherwise,
people are there.
You could have a property that has a large number of people living at that one property, and they decide what the entire street, how they vote decides how the entire street is regulated, whether they get RPP or not. But you may have, a widower that lives down the street all by himself. Well, that's just one person and one vote, but we're counting each individual property and giving them an equal share in what goes on their street frontage.
So is the data from the data from Paris on the west side of 12 South, would it help you make an overall strategic plan for the area? Or
This,
no?
it is part of the plan.
Well, if it gets rejected today, it's not.
Well, I didn't think that far ahead. I mean,
Well, that's where we are.
Because the other streets, the other streets were
Sure.
approved last month. So I mean, it's literally exactly the same.
But also until that point, and what Andrew mentioned earlier, it goes from address to address. So if there's 60 feet of additional curb that's outside of, on the western side, is outside of the petition, those streets wouldn't be signed for residential parking. And then therefore, those who live on Belmont can also park within that 60 feet of curb space, if that makes sense. Because if you look at also the eastern side of Paris Avenue, there's a gap of about 90 feet of curb space that is not included within the RPP zone. So you will have portions on the eastern and the western side that would not have signs for RPP, and therefore anyone can go in and park in those spaces.
I think that's a valid point. Would Street View be helpful of that, Ms. Holler, to better understand how much curb space is not being affected from this RPP? If they could pull it up?
If you're referring to the alley.
Yes, from the alley to
Yeah,
Belmont?
I looked at that on my way here
Okay.
today, so the alley's not too far from the Belmont Boulevard, from what I saw.
Yeah, it's a good,
I just wanted to
60,
also
80 feet.
mention, if I could, and I think I'm failing to bring this point forward, is that currently 12 South on its own, there is unregulated parking, which is the main corridor, right? Which all of these streets branches out from. They're unregulated. Once that becomes regulated, it's going to allow some parking for all the folks that would want to do business that can't, because currently cars are parked there for a long time, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever the case is. A lot of them are employees, as we've done our analysis. There are cars, they are there at 8 a.m., they're also there at 4 p.m., so that means they're most likely employees. So once all of those shift to where they need to be, that's going to allow more space and more real estate for parking for those that would otherwise park in RPP zones before. The streets that we create an RPP zone, it would create a scenario where they could park now near the place of business on 12 South.
Commissioner Cornick, and then Ms. Holler, and then we're going to do a motion.
I mean, as we talk about consistency, I would like to remind everybody that we, in an area that is mostly commercial, we did paid parking, which allows for up to 10 hours. And so we're saying that those employees have the ability to park on the street for $10 a day. And then now we're saying that here in 12 South, we are not going to have that because it's people parking. And so, you know, we may want to consider maybe not doing the 2-hour limit and going straight to paid parking. So that way there is the flexibility there of, hey, if you're only here for 2 hours, pay for $2. If you're here for longer, we don't really want that, but we might as well try to prevent that by just charging the price that that street should be.
Yeah, and I could also speak to that. Usually in areas that doesn't have any regulation, you wouldn't immediately jump in to just, hard approach of paid parking. We would start with regulating with time parking to get the community adjusted to the change, and then therefore come back to you at a later point and then integrate paid parking. If it was paid parking generally in that area, that might be, a consideration to jump right into it. But since it's not a thing in that neighborhood, it is a softer approach from the community to implement time parking and then come to you later on for paid parking.
So I want to circle back and focus on the RPP of the agenda item. Ms. Holler, if you got a question of that, please go ahead, and then we'll move to a motion.
Oh, sure, I'll be very quick. Again, I support, just to be clear, I support the program itself. My pause comes in that, as stated in the analysis, that there would be no exceptions to the requirement to have to have a permit to park there, and the proximity to Belmont Boulevard. Given the length of the block, it's really more than one block, that the demand is really 12 South, and I believe that there should be more consideration given to the entire community, residential community closer to Belmont. And my last point is, reading that Kirkwood and Monroe might be next in the queue, that if the commission were to approve this today, I think we're setting a precedent that the next two would be granted. And I would argue the same concerns on those two streets as well. Thank you.
Do we have a motion for approval of residential permit parking area effective 24/7 from Paris Avenue, from 12th South Avenue, from 12th Avenue South to Belmont, requested by Councilmember Cash? We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Chair, if this is going to go through, would the motion be amended to exclude that little area that's not part of the permit? Because the way it reads is Paris Ave from 12th to Belmont.
No, that's a great point. I think it's on the record that says it's from the addresses that were listed in the petition. So I guess legal, do we need to amend the motion to be clear that it's related to the addresses that is on the commission and not from Paris Avenue, from 12th Avenue South to Belmont?
Yes, I think for clarity's sake, that would be the proper course of action.
Can I add that amendment, or does the
Yes,
person?
you have the discretion
So
to add it.
we'll amend the motion to clarify that it's from the alley, or that it is for the range of the addresses within the petition for the RPP. Commissioner Holler.
Yes, Chair, could we ask for clarification on how many spaces would that free up?
We don't know how many spaces because the presence of driveways and mailboxes limit that. We can identify the linear feet, but the actual number of spaces that are available on the street are severely diminished by the presence of mailboxes and driveways and fire hydrants and other things like that.
For clarity, you're asking from Belmont to the alley is how much that frees up,
Correct,
right?
Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think the number that I heard previously was 65 is the range based on the addresses that were asked for. So then I don't know if we need to note that in the minutes or provide a correspondence that says what that free space is, but I think that's something easily that can
If
be
you'll give me a
gotten.
moment, I'll tell you what
Yeah.
the length is between Belmont and that first
This
alley.
is whatever the length of that parcel is.
Yeah, an approximate number would be very helpful in making,
Sure.
in terms of my vote. If we're talking
I don't
10
know.
spaces out of 65, that's significant.
Does anybody have the Jeopardy music on hand while Mr. Smith looks this up?
Approximately 200 feet.
200 feet.
That should be around 10 spaces, where we measure parking space in a length of 22 feet.
10 on each
Unusual.
side, or 10
Oh, no,
total?
it won't be that number of spaces, because remember, you cannot park within 30 feet of an intersection. And again, any driveways, mailboxes, that will diminish the number of
So
spaces.
that's the total
So the
length.
total length is
Both sides?
approximately 200 feet between Belmont and the start of the western RPP zone.
So if you take 30 for the alley, 30 for the road, down to 60, so 140 feet. 100 to 140 feet.
I don't know. How many spaces, just approximately?
Approximately, there would be 7 spaces on each side.
Okay,
14.
that helps. Thank you.
And just to clarify in terms of procedure, so for you to amend your motion, you need to have like a second on that, and you all vote to amend it, and then that's what's before you.
Okay. Can I do that after the question and comment period on the motion?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? So I would like to amend the motion to, it's been first and second to approve residential permit parking from the addresses within the petition. And we have identified that that would free up, there will be approximately 14 spaces still available that is not included within the petition between Belmont and the alley.
Chair, I have the house addresses on the petition. It's from house 1206 to house number 1516.
Yes. Do I have, all in favor, do I have to do ayes? Or
Yeah,
do
so
I
just
just,
do, and so this is on the amending your motion, and then you'll vote on the motion as
I
amended.
do first and second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
second.
Well, hold on.
Oh,
First
sorry.
question? Is there a first? I'm the first then.
You can propose to amend your own motion, yeah, and then get a second on that. and
Do I have a second?
Second.
First and second. This is my first time, excuse me.
It's all right.
Any questions and comments on that amended motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed.
Okay, so you voted to like amend it, then now you vote on the motion.
Okay,
Sorry.
so now we're voting on the amended motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in
Can
favor
you
say aye.
street state?
No. I can try, but,
That's okay.
okay.
Chair, I wrote it down. I think I got it. Correct me if I'm
Okay.
wrong.
And we got it's being recorded too.
The amended motion is to approve a new residential permit parking area effective 24/7 for Paris Avenue for the range of addresses within the petition, and that would be beginning with house number 1206 and ending with house number 1516.
Great. Yes.
Just a point of clarification, that's just on one side of the street though, right?
That's one side of the street. The other side is 1207 to 1519, but that identifies the eastern and western boundaries.
Right, Chair, I just want to make sure we don't forget the western, the
Yeah, the south side.
south side of the street on this renewed amended motion.
I understand. It's fair. Well, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So it has passed. Thank you all for working through that with me. And Councilmember Cash, appreciate your input. Item 6.2, CD 25, approval of four-way yield control for the intersection of Battlefield Drive and Granny White Pike, replacing existing two-way stop control for installation of a new tactical urbanism roundabout requested by NDOT and the Battlemont Neighborhood Association. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Chair. We have a tactical urbanism program within NDOT, and the tactical urbanism program typically goes out and does installations that are temporary in nature. If it's something that has worked out very well, then it may become permanent in the future. In this case, what we want to do is install a little mini roundabout in the middle of this very large asphalt intersection. We will enhance the pedestrian and bicycle crossings. The existing stop control is a two-way stop for Battlefield with the approaches north and south for Granny White Pike are not controlled. What we're proposing is replacing the existing stop control on Battlefield with new four-way yield control. And because of that change, it requires T&P approval for us to proceed with this project.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions from the commissioners? Not, do we have a motion? Oh, you got one? Question? Make a motion?
Motion to approve?
We have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Since this is tactical urbanism, that's generally like a temporary installation, should we consider this a permanent, or will we see this back to either undo it or make it permanent in the future?
The latter. You'll see this either, if we change it from all-way yield control back to either two-way, or if it meets MUTCD warrants for four-way, then that change would come back before you. If the tactical urbanism project becomes permanent, we don't need an approval to reapprove four-way yield control. Does that make sense?
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Thank you. 6.3, CD 19, approval of new valet lane on the east side of 20th Avenue North at 110 20th Avenue North for 3 parking spaces effective 24/7, requested by Tempo by Hilton Hotel. Mr. Mateus.
Yes, sir. So this is a location that has a good wide cutout for the valet. So this will not impact the right-of-way since the cutout takes away the traffic from the right-of-way itself. It is a 3-space valet that has more than usual width. So again, not anticipating any issues. The retrieval of the vehicles is perfectly aligned with the flow of traffic for parking the vehicles and also retrieving the vehicles at the back end. There's an expectation of 37 vehicles daily, which is low capacity. Operations that usually have this amount of vehicles don't necessarily impede into right away that much as they come across, multiple hours throughout the day. It's a fairly small operation. We will obviously monitor this as every other new valet, and they have to comply with the 1242 code to ensure there's no violations of any kind. And as such, we would like to seek approval. This is a reputable valet operator that has multiple locations in the city. We have a direct channel with the vice president. I personally speak to him about any updates or any issues that we might have. So I don't anticipate anything out of ordinary like some of the other locations they manage in this city successfully. So that's all I have to add.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Kornatek?
Go ahead.
I appreciate you including the valet route in here. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
One question is, I think we have 2 tiers for our valet fees. Is this one a non-central parking district location?
It's a non-central parking district location.
Okay, so it's the lower cost.
It's the lower bracket, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Wait, so
Commissioner Holler?
Oh, thank you. I'll be quick. Thank you, Chair. I second the appreciation for having the route displayed and detailed for us, and that is one of my questions, actually. I'm very familiar with this site and recognizing that 20th Avenue North is one-way heading north. And directly across the street is the Graduate Hotel, who also has their own valet lane. So I have a couple questions. On high-demand nights, weekends, et cetera, that block is extremely busy. Amerigo Restaurant also sits right at the corner of 20th and West End. So the Tempo only has valet parking. They do not offer self-parking. So with that demand of 37 vehicles, I'm sure most of that is going to be in the evening, probably the same time as the Graduate valet is operating. I presume you all think that that's going to work out just fine?
Well, we anticipate that Valet company is going to staff appropriately. If they have events, they usually have an extra body there. They have runners sometimes on top of normal operations. So we fully trust that they know what to do and how to do it. And again, if it becomes an issue, we'll know because our guys will be there, somebody will see it. And that would follow a phone call and us engaging with the Valet operator and asking them to improve the operations. Otherwise, there would be a means for revocation or at least one of the violations that would lead to revocation. So there's an open channel. We took this into consideration, but again, there's multiple facilities that they manage in this city successfully. So I don't see why that would be different.
Okay, and then where would rideshare pickup and drop-off occur for the Tempo?
In the Valet zone.
In the valleys?
Yes, ma'am.
Simultaneously?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Just a question regarding the route. I mentioned the Amerigo Restaurant. So if I'm reading this route properly, where the purple arrows are, so it's the coming out of the garage, I guess, back to the hotel. All right, I believe that's an alley right there, and it's a very narrow alley. And the Amerigo Restaurant parking lot also abuts that alley. So my question is that alley going to be two-way? Is it one-way? And how will this direction of traffic impede vehicles coming out of the Amerigo parking lot?
Would you mind if the operator come and speak to it?
Sure. Is he representing Amerigo or?
He's representing the operator of the Valet.
Yes, okay.
So they have the route. He's the one who sent me the
Right,
route, so
okay.
they know.
Please state your name for the record if you don't mind.
Hey, everybody. My name's Trevor Atherton with Parking Management Company, partnering with the Tempo Midtown. My understanding is that alley is a one-way going the direction of the arrows. That's my understanding. We can further research it, though, if there's.
I don't think I've ever seen a one-way arrow sign in there, but I personally have
sorry.
driven in the other direction many times, so
Got it.
if that's
There may
correct,
not-
I would suggest that the Amerigo be looped into this conversation and they're.
We will take this into consideration. Andrew is sitting right here. He's our sign guy. So if it is indeed a one-way, we can address that, no problem.
Okay, it's very tight, and there's, yeah.
I mean, yield conditions still apply, so whoever comes first would need to yield. I understand this might be a situation where multiple cars might need to yield to each other, but again, this is not something that hasn't been done before, and as far as I know, there haven't been any issues with these, especially in valets. The vehicles are not really the valet vehicles. They are owned by whoever is using the service, so they're extremely cautious with how they proceed with parking the vehicles and retrieving it. So I'm sure that
I'm
will
not
take into consideration.
I'm not questioning that. I'm more concerned about the patrons from the Amerigo coming out and being surprised and not knowing what to do.
The only other thing I'd add is we got a temporary permit approved to open this. So we have been operating with this with a temporary permit and no issues with Amerigo in that time frame. I think that was about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? You have a motion?
So moved.
Second? It's been first and second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's been passed. Thanks for your comments, sir. Thank you. Okay, 6.4. So 6.41, 42, 43, 44 are all things that need to be done in totality to accomplish 6.4. So we're going to review each one of these and just vote on the 6.4 item, correct? We don't need to vote on each independent item.
I would defer to legal on that, but all of these should be voted on as a package deal. If there's something that is voted down, the whole thing should be voted down.
So I guess legal.
So you should articulate the motion as including specifically all 4 of those items.
Okay. So I'm going to read all 4 of the items, and then we'll get into review or discussion. CD 17, approval of related traffic and parking changes to Mildred, Shute Avenue and 3rd Avenue South, specifically 6.4.1, approval of new one-way eastbound traffic circulation on Mildred, Shute Avenue from 4th Avenue South to 2nd Avenue South with new no parking restrictions on the north side of Mildred, Shute Avenue from 4th Avenue South to 2nd Avenue South. 6.4.2, approval of new time-limited parking on the north side of Mildred, Shute Avenue from 4th Avenue South to 2nd Avenue South. 2-hour limit, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. 6.4.3, approval of new time-limited parking on both sides of 3rd Avenue South between Cameron Street and Chestnut Street. 2-hour limit, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. 6.4.4, approval of new loading zone not exceeding 50 feet, effective 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the west side of 3rd Avenue South, immediately south of Mildred Shute Avenue, requested by Councilmember Vo and NDOT. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Mason. I'd like to point out something you see on your screen under 6.4.1. Oh, it says new no parking restrictions on the north-south side. That should be scratched out. It's north is where we wish to have parking. South is going to be the through lane. Both north and south was inadvertently typed in to the PowerPoint. It's corrected on your staff report and highlighted in yellow.
There's no highlight, but it does say no parking restrictions on the north side.
Yeah, that was.
So this is right.
That's wrong. The staff report is what's right.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So please scratch out north and replace it with south on item
on the staff report. I got you.
6.4.1. And if you'll see it on the screen, it has both, but, all right. We've had multiple, Hub Nashville requests related to parking and narrow streets. Mildred Shute Avenue is approximately 20 feet in width, and people are parking, part of Mildred Shute has existing parking restrictions right now on the north side. There's a long time residential handicap space that is near the eastern end of Mildred Shute. With this, if this motion carries, I'll move that residential handicap space to the north side along with all the other parking. We're going to push it to the north side and use the south lane for a one-way through lane. We have done traffic studies on Mildred Shute and also on 3rd Avenue South, but we found that nearly 60%, maybe 2/3 of the traffic is flowing from the west to the east, and it looks like from field observations that Mildred Shute is used as a turnaround for vehicles that are coming down south on 4th. They cut through Mildred Shute and then turn left to go back up 2nd Avenue South, either to get back to the interstate or to get back to downtown. That bottom picture is looking at 4th Avenue South from 3rd Avenue South, and you can tell it's really not a street that is very parking happy. And if we convert that to one-way traffic flow, then we can have a parking lane and a one-way travel lane. The other parts of this request are to make the parking on the north side of Mildred Shute with a 2-hour limit from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days. And this time frame is based on conversations we've had with the council member and with neighborhood stakeholders at public meetings on this topic in that neighborhood. We also are requesting the same time-limited parking limits on both sides of 3rd Avenue South between Cameron Street to the north and Chestnut all the way to the south. The business owners there are saying that when, that the early morning hours they have a lot of construction workers that are coming there and parking and are occupying the curb space all day long. And in this area, the businesses are seeking to have some churn. There's a couple of yoga studios or Pilates and a coffee bar, and there's some retail that's going on the corner of Mildred Shutes and 3rd, and they would like to have that daytime churn. And finally, the business owners there asked for a loading zone. And we determined that a very good place to have that loading zone would be on the southwest corner of 3rd Avenue South. And on the screen there, it's indicated in yellow. And what we found is that based on the size of the vehicles we've observed there, we could, utilize that space and allow the space behind the loading vehicle to pull the loading ramp off and use that 30-foot safety zone in between the first parked vehicle and an intersection. You can't park within 30 feet of a crosswalk or an MUTCD control device, but there's nothing about pulling the loading ramp off and running the hand trucks up and down there. But I think we can maximize the parking by putting the loading there. And finally, if y'all see fit, please vote on all of the above. Councilmember Vo is very keenly interested in how this develops. And we have found that the business owners and the couple of residents that came to our community meeting, they have all been on board with this.
Questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Gibbs.
Mr. Smith, why is it that we're doing 7 days a week instead of Monday through Friday for the spaces that are designated?
Because that aligns with the business hours of the businesses that are there. Not all of them are open 7 days, but some of them are, some of them aren't, and that's based on the feedback that we got from the business stakeholders there.
Any other questions? Ms. Holler?
Do we have just kind of a strategic direction, generally speaking, when we do a limited parking hours? So this is 8 to 8. We've seen others, I think, 7 to 8. It kind of varies. So are you saying it's literally dictated by the operating hours of the businesses in the area? Is that how we get to this recommendation?
The answer is yes. Some of these businesses are open to where this would accommodate them. Actually, in fact, the coffee bar that we spoke to operates during the summer at until 10. So making it until 8 would make it, if somebody would park there, regulated for 2 hours, the extended 2 hours would then be unregulated, free of charge. I'm sorry, without limitation on time. So this seemed like the best option with the business hours that they have in that area.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.
My chair, second question? Sure. Okay. And I believe I've asked this in the past, but just to clarify, when we say when we say time-limited parking, that means free as well?
Yes, so the difference between this and paid is that instead of a monetary requirement, there is a restrictive requirement for time parked at this curb. So the maximum allowed time for anyone to park at the same time is 2 hours. That's what that means. It's still free, but you only have 2 hours at that area.
Okay. For purposes of the recommendation, do we need to clarify that? Because I know we have other situations, right, where it's paid, but it's also time limited.
No.
Like some areas you can park for 3 hours
Oh,
paid or 5 hours paid, so,
That used to be the case before phase two. Phase two allows for up to 10 hours everywhere now.
everywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The paid parking is up to 10 hours everywhere. Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't automatically realize that this is free, but I don't know if we need to state that or not. For the record.
So a follow-up question, I guess, what does the signage look like for time limited? Because the paid parking will have the QR code, say pay here. What does this look like?
The signage will just indicate, 2-hour parking limit. It'll be a green sign with a black P and a green circle, and it'll just indicate 2-hour parking. But there will be no QR codes, no payment kiosk. We have similar 2-hour parking. Well, I was going to say, we had similar 2-hour parking on James Robertson, but that's been converted to pay parking, hasn't it? We have a few other areas that have time-limited signage, but in general, it's a green permissive condition where it indicates people can park here, but there's a 2-hour maximum limit.
So there's signage that, there's no way for anybody can pay. I guess it's just human nature of seeing 2 hours and thinking that they have to pay. They just need to change that mindset. And the businesses can spread the word as well.
There's nothing to scan for payment in this area, so
Yes.
it would just be the information
And
inside.
I wasn't concerned as much about the signage. I was more concerned about for the record, does it need to say, or our legal team, does it need to say free?
Yeah, and usually time indicates that it's free, and
Okay.
on the paid side, paid indicates that
So
it's paid, so the time will
That's the
indicate that it's
assumption,
free.
then I'll go with the assumption.
Okay.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Cornertick?
Start with the first question. You had mentioned there's a handicap space on the south side of Mildred Shute.
That's correct. As you approach Second Avenue South, on the right-hand side, on the south side, there's an existing residential handicap space. There's a lady that lives on the north side of Mildred Shutes, and she's disabled. She's been, she has one vehicle. She's had that space there for several years. I have replaced the signage there before for her, and she has no driveways. She's got access off of an alley, but the home that she lives in has, is a much older home. And there's nowhere for her to park on Second Avenue South, and she can't park in the alley behind their house. So the only place to have that handicap space is on Mildred Shute. And if you see fit to pass this, then I'm going to move her space adjacent. I'm going to put it on her side of the road, so she'll be happier.
Yeah, I think that was my concern, is just making sure that it was on the same side of the street as the individual was.
Right now, it's on the wrong side, just because the existing regulation on Mildred Shute says there's no parking on the north side on this particular segment between Third and Second.
And am I wrong in thinking that even though she's the one that applied for it, anybody else who qualifies for handicap parking could theoretically park in her space, or the space that's there?
That's correct. It's not tied to an individual or tied to a license plate. The fact that it's a handicap space means it's available to anyone whose vehicle is properly designated, either with a handicap license plate or a hang tag.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing to just make sure, stay in touch to see if that's being used and if there's any problems with that.
And I've seen this individual's vehicle. I know it when I see it, and I've seen it there every time I've been to this location.
Two other things. The first one, obviously, this is a very narrow road. Totally understand potentially going to one-way here. Was there any thought of maybe doing like offset parking? So a couple of spaces on one side, a couple of spaces on the other, to kind of slow down traffic and have them weave through?
Speeding is not a problem. We did a traffic study. We found that the 85th percentile of, the speed limit is 25 and the 85th percentile is in the staff report, but we found that speeding is not an issue on this roadway. I'm having to look to see where the average speed is 20 miles an hour. The 85th percentile was found to be 28. That's not a problem. But also be aware that there are trucks that come down off the interstate and need to turn around. And I have seen more than one truck that uses this. And so we don't want to do offset parking because then you essentially close the street to trucks and make it harder on delivery vehicles.
And then final question, and this is going back to the archives. This is one of my favorite items that's been here. Former Councilmember Sledge brought a stop sign request that connects to 2nd Avenue and Mildred Shute, so the end of this discussion. And when that was there, it was considered an unwarranted stop sign. So over our engineer's judgment at the time, that was put in place. I think I've asked in the past to kind of see, do we go back and look at places where we've done things that were unwarranted? One, in your opinion, does that change any of the analysis or things that we've done? Do you think that there's any problem here? Are we going to study it further? Are we going to have a study of what has been there for now, I guess, 5 or so years?
It doesn't change the traffic studies that we've done on Mildred Shute, and it's really a separate item from this agenda item. It's something that we can look at in the future if necessary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I would like to see more of creating a full list of the places that we think may have issues or think that we've done something that we maybe want to reconsider. And so since this one is touching it, I thought it'd be a great idea to kind of use it as a chance to highlight that we should look to see, is it warranted now? So that way we can kind of think through how we do approve them moving forward. But thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Yes.
My question is about the one-way traffic in the source lanes. I wonder when you did the study, did you specifically look at the 3rd Avenue North? How about the 2nd Avenue South? Because the Mildred Shute Avenue continue, right? And only 2 blocks of that was proposed to convert to one-way traffic. But how about the rest of the Mildred Shute Avenue?
I'm sorry. We did briefly look at the other part of Mildred Shute. It provides a connection to a school, and that was kind of outside of the area of this particular neighborhood node, and we decided not to pursue one-way traffic flow on that other part of Mildred Shute. That other part of Mildred Shute is entirely residential, and what we're looking at right here is really a mixed use, and it's an area that's undergoing redevelopment. So it's a different street context. So yes, we did look at it, but we ruled that out pretty quickly.
Okay, so if a car is driving from the 2nd to the 3rd Avenue at the Mildred Shute, and they will either go up or go down to get to 3rd Avenue, right?
A vehicle that is coming from the eastern side of 2nd Avenue South would have to make a right-handed turn to go up Mildred Shute, because now the Mildred Shute would be a one-way road from west to east, and 2nd Avenue South is also a one-way road from south to north. So a vehicle coming out of Mildred Shute on the eastern side of this map would have to make a mandatory right-handed turn.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on that. So will the signage coming Mildred Shute to the west, it'll be a right turn only at that point at the 2nd Avenue. Will it say right turn only, or will it just be do not enter because this is one way on the other side?
It'll be a combination of both. There will be do not enter and some, I'm trying to think, I don't know if there's an existing no left turn on Mildred Shute to turn, so that traffic doesn't turn southbound on Second Avenue South. I'd have to look at what's over there, but I know that when we do this, when we deploy signs, we're going to have to do some additional signage on that part of Mildred Shute as well.
Yeah, it definitely, I would think it seems easier to see, don't turn left onto Second because it is such a large road with so many cars all the time, but Mildred Shute is a lower traffic road, so having as much visually to make sure that people don't go the wrong way.
And honestly, somebody coming out of the eastern side of Mildred Shute, they're going to see vehicles parked in the parking lane along the north side of Mildred Shute, and they're going to see, hey, something's changed there.
Any other, go ahead, comment?
I was just going to say, I think we're still working through the don't park facing the wrong way thing through the city, so, well, hopefully they'll see it.
That is a never-ending struggle.
Yes.
Any other questions? We have a motion.
Motion to approve with,
Second?
with the change that from north to south?
Oh, yeah, with the amended agenda item, or the changed. Do I need to reread that, legal, just for clarity?
I mean, I would go ahead and read the language as amended, just because it is an important distinction between north and south. So I
just-
think it's, 6.4.1, where
Yes,
you there's
ma'am.
the change, yeah.
So just make a motion to approve and just reread 6.4.1
Okay.
and say south. Make sure you say south.
Okay. So motion to approve and, gonna reread 6.4.1, and it's, approval of a one-way eastbound traffic circulation on Mildred Shute Avenue from 4th Avenue South to 2nd Avenue South with no new parking restrictions on the south side of Mildred Shute from 4th Avenue to 2nd Avenue South.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Mr. Smith, Emmy, really appreciate you all working with, I think that last screen that you had, the collective approach, the clarity, the research, all that, well done, great job. If we could, work towards some of that on like Belmont and some of those other things, that'd be great, but that is absolutely fantastic. Appreciate that item. 7.0 unfinished business. Recommendations to council regarding Metro Council Ordinance BL 2026-1255 related to sandwich board signage requested by the Metropolitan Clerk's Office. How you doing, Mr. Freeze?
Hello, Commissioner Mason.
Please say your name for the record.
My name is Brad Freeze. I work for the Nashville Department of Transportation. So we brought this before you the past few times, sharing that we were in coordination with the Councilmember Huffman has submitted this bill. We're still in coordination. As of last week, we met with the council member going through some things. We have actually brought up what the Traffic and Parking Commission wanted to add to the legislation the last time. So that is being considered as well. We're asking for one additional 1 month deferral.
Great. Do we have a motion for 1 month deferral?
Motion,
We have a second?
second.
It's been first and second to defer this item 1 month. We have any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Freeze. Any new business? 8.1, Mr. Gibbs.
We touched on it briefly when we were just talking about the totality of the way that 6.4 was laid out. I'd like to see that same type of work done on the item that we just got through talking about, the 6.1, because we passed it, but there are other streets that are on here that are going to be rolling up. And I would just assume we have a total plan for it rather than just continuing to piece it together. So how do we address that? And what kind of a time frame would be needed to come back to us with something that would cover this whole area?
So Emmy walked out of the room. I think to piggyback on that, it was an April date thrown out there for a portion of it, but yeah, some clarity around
Yeah.
a strategic plan and the timeline of that would be great.
Yeah, it's always a goal, obviously, with holistic approaches, especially when you're doing such large-scale projects. So for the 12 South neighborhood, once we implement or ask you to implement the 2-hour parking, we'll also come forth with a bunch of other recommendations for the community as a whole, including loading zones, the 2-hour time-limited parking, and maybe some other residential parking requests that may come forward during that time. So it's a package deal, and to your point, make it a one-stop shop.
And about how long do you think it'll be before you all will have something together for that whole area?
Yeah, for 12 South, I would say let's look towards May, right around that time frame. It's a large-scale project, so we want to make sure we have other departments who are piecing things together, and we're coming together as one for it.
I think, we're not looking for entire neighborhood, but, 4-block, 5-block quadrants or whatnot, I think, how it affects each, is probably doable. Commissioner Cornington?
Are you all done with that one? Okay. I had a question, and I was hoping that maybe this could just be something legal could respond to next meeting, or the department could kind of check in on it. But in the charter, we have the authorization to select a chief traffic engineer. And I was just wondering if we have done that in the past and when, and then if that is something that we can consider in the future.
I'll let Metro Legal take a look at that too, but way back in the days before there was an NDOT, and when there was a Public Works, there actually were employees of the Traffic and Parking Commission. And this goes back to, as far as I know, the commission had employees that went into the 1990s. And sometime around the late 1990s, might have been around 2000, those employees, or the department of the Traffic and Parking Commission was folded into Metro Public Works. That's why you don't have a secretary and you don't have a chief engineer. But those were absorbed by Public Works. And then a couple of years ago, Public Works became the Department of Transportation. I'll let legal kind of give you more information on that.
Not sure we have more information than that at this time. We have to
meeting's
look
fine.
into it. Okay.
Whenever.
Okay, thank you.
Can we be sure that gets added to the, unfinished business? Okay, thanks, Ms. Thompson.
I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't catch that.
Just make sure it was listed on the unfinished business on the agenda for next month.
Sandwich board signs for unfinished business?
No, the question about us hiring a traffic engineer or having the authority.
Okay.
Last question. Scooters, is that under our jurisdiction, or who deals with the scooters?
The Transportation Licensing Commission has authority over scooters.
I can have Mr. Rooker here if you've got questions next month. He normally attends. He's stepped out already.
It just seems like it's accidents waiting to happen.
We'll get that noted and talk to Mr. Rooker when he comes back next month. Any other items? Oh, yes, Ms. Holler.
Thank you, Chair. I'll wrap up the questions here. It was last year, maybe I believe in the spring, May, when we had a joint meeting, the Traffic and Parking Commission, along with the other commissions and departments working on pedestrian safety, vehicular safety, Vision Zero, BPAC, et cetera, as well as the Metro Council Transportation Committee. So my question is, are we looking to reconvene together as those groups, and any updates that could be provided on collaborative work?
I don't have an immediate update. I think Councilman Parker is heading up that effort, so it'd be something we could ask him next month. But I don't have any updates unless anybody else does.
Commissioner, this is Brad from NDOT. I don't have any updates on that, but yes, we can make sure but before next month, we can actually check on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Captain?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Approved. Thank you all.